Good to meet you, bro. Yeah, no doubt, man. It's yeah, man. There's some dope folks, man. We want to meet. They come in here all the time. You know, we just building, bro. Yeah. Word. Word, man. I look forward to it, bro. I'll follow you back, man. So, see you to build over here, man. You know, that's the key, you know? Yeah.
Come on. Oh, thank you.
So what you get, sis?
Herbal black. Yeah. No. I see rose flower in here, I believe. Yeah, it's a rose flower. I would be that. Oh, when you're ready. Yeah. I used to trying to get up.
It's hurting.
Yeah, like my eyeball would really do not.
Yes, that's how I used to be. Sometimes I had late nights.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking, I was about to make a joke, say, you should have signed.
Did you find the huh?
I'm talking about you signed his book. I was like, I wonder if he signed it.
I'm getting ready to go on the Zoom.
Okay, okay.
My favorite. Look, Gordon Park, Muhammad Ali for that last one. Oh, it got a sticker on the back of it? Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Here you go, bro.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you.
It was really good. Real good.
So you want to be up late in the bed?
Yeah, I want to be up late in bed.
Yes, I had to go quick. 4 events in 3 nights.
Huh?
That's correct.
What's in front of it? Yeah, just type in the
It's just a dope fact.
type in and
For sure.
Y'all got something going on like synergy wise, and I don't know.
How you doing, man?
how we do it, y'all.
I'm sorry.
You know, you had those little bitty,
The only thing that's comparable to
No,
what's going on in Atlanta
You
right now
baby?
artistically is Harlem Wilson.
But these, I think she replaced them with these.
oh, here she is.
I think Harlem Wilson.
Or she was just here too, so I think he might be out of them.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
There's no like resource, black resource for this. See what I mean? So y'all want to like, and this is stuff that I was like, what y'all doing? What I was doing at they see. I've been in artists now for over 20 years. I started was in my early 20s. When I started going hard at nowadays, I can't believe
Appreciate it.
all that stuff they talking about back then.
Right.
Take care.
That's why.
Brand,
I heard you.
Gentlemen,
based on
Black
it's
power.
it's not.
Yeah,
to say
you see
certain
that on your
things,
chart?
it's to show people
Okay.
you just said, never pass. Go out.
You have three water now? Look like three.
No, not of this.
Okay.
I'm just gonna put the energy out. The universe responds to good and bad.
Malcolm, boy.
And that's it.
Both of these.
Malcolm,
Testing,
Testing.
testing.
And in science,
Okay.
there's a reference to causal effect. Right, so we know that as common. It means the same thing. So you radiate something, you put out enough energy, it don't matter. So most folks, they think, oh, well, I got it. Based on whether or not it's not. That's what I'm talking about. It's a difference. Yeah.
You know.
I'm sorry.
This is something that we really need, but I mean, for like teenagers. You know, I guess I can call this person on here.
You know, I was waiting for her to come back in because she dropped those off
Uh-huh.
and she dropped them off, but she didn't leave me contact information. I think it's an email address on there.
That's what I'm looking for.
Right.
And I was on the bottom third.
Okay, it's on the back here. Okay, this is good. Thank you.
Yes.
And it's, I'm glad you said that. Because I didn't realize something.
How do I turn his video
Well,
off?
I'm doing
Video
something
off?
based on my heart. These are actually going up online, or that's really starting to find a voice. The truth is, I haven't found my voice yet, right? So there's an idea, voice for the voice. Same the same writers, so forth, so. But
This is
what I was
not
doing is
going
I was
to,
neglecting my gift.
I need to figure out
And others in holding
how
in
to
such
do
high
this.
esteem. Notice that my writing got better, performance got better. That's what I'm focused on.
That is not
What
what
I'm
I
doing
want.
today,
I want
What I'm
participants.
saying, my impact, my vibration. So we honest that.
I gotta,
That's dope.
okay, now he's the one that I want in here. Okay. Make co-host. Okay. Make co-host. So how do I move everybody else's video? Hide non-video participants. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Okay. I don't hear you. Rodney, you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You can hear me?
Rodney,
Yes, sir.
I can't hear you, so I gotta work out this. What this is. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Rodney?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Clearly.
Rodney?
What you know what, it's
Okay, so why can't I hear?
trajectory.
Is that plugged in? Nope.
Taking the progress, right? So as you go along,
How you doing, brother?
the best way to describe it is like drive, right? Like at first, you driving, you got two hands on the wheel, like passing on fast, pay attention to all this stuff, stay within lines, and it's check. You know, it's challenging. couple of years down the road, like driving with your feet, eating the hamburger and all that. You see what I mean? Right. So, artistry is like that too. It's really a metaphor.
Rodney, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Speak up.
I can hear you. You can hear me?
Let me turn it up. 13, yeah. Yes, fire signs. Huh? Word.
Try it now, Rodney.
Right.
Yes, you can hear me?
There we
go. See that?
Okay.
Let's see what you're talking about.
I hear you.
It's relative.
Yeah.
Most fire signs early on. So it's there's like we break down roughly the resistance thing. Like we are our signs, so our influences and our spiritual process. See what I mean?
Looking for who?
Black Power. I believe you have that one.
Well,
And then the Tyson's.
that one, people are ordering that. That'll be in towards the end of next week. So people are pre-ordering that. When you get a chance, plug this up. Okay. Let's see. Admit all. Can you hear me, Rodney?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm trying to work this. That doesn't need to be up on the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
It's 1:30, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I need to, so I should be up on Facebook. Let's let me check a couple things. This is a first, doing
Yeah.
this virtually, so thought I had all this worked out, so I just want to make sure, and then we can go ahead and get started. I want to make sure that it's feeding on the Facebook page live for people to see.
Nope. Yeah.
Some people they know.
Okay. I don't see that.
All right.
One time because I was
That is, let me close my Google. Okay. All right, so how do I make sure that the live is up here? Waiting on live video. So I guess it's waiting on me. So I need to close my Google so that doesn't keep popping up. And to close that out. You okay? Okay. So I think that, okay, so see, this is. How'd I lose Rodney?
He may still be there. Is he just on a different screen? If you view it, let's see.
I'm only supposed to be seeing me and Rodney because Rodney is a co-host, so I don't know if I lost him or not. There's Rodney. Why do I have Kaleo? Are you supposed to be on the screen, sis? Can you hear me? Hello? So,
I can hear you. No, I'm not.
okay. Stop video. There we go. There we go. Okay. We're going to get started here.
systematic brainwash.
Yeah. But then we won't be able to hear over that.
You are what you are. You never get to why you are. because
So I need to make sure that I start.
Because you're a government issue now.
Go live. Okay, we're live. Welcome, everyone. I'm Kazemde Ajamu from Black Dot Cultural Center and Bookstore located in downtown Lithonia at 6984 Main Street. That's 6984 Main Street in Lithonia, Georgia. And I am extremely excited, one, to be doing our first virtual book signing. Two, to have the honor of having Rodney Lewis as our first virtual and an important one. I want to make sure I hear you. Could I hear you, brother? Okay, I lost your volume again for some reason. So say it again. I don't think I muted him. Asked to unmute. Okay. I think you're asked to unmute. You're muted for some reason.
Better? You can hear me
There
better?
you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Before I get started, I want to read a little, not a little, but I want to read his bio. And so you have a good idea of what, not only what his great book, Divided by Design, but you get to know a little bit about him. Rodney is a 47-year-old business executive from Barbados and author of Divided by Design. Mr. Lewis holds a Bachelor of Science degree with honors from the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus. You got to tell me about that, bro. At present, he is a director of Canadian offshore company that specializes in renewable energy. He also continued to serve as a marketing communication consultant across the region and abroad for one of the major media houses in the Caribbean. During his professional career, Mr. Lewis held several executive positions where he was instrumental in implementing groundbreaking initiatives for Fortune 500 companies. His passion for entrepreneurship led him to own and direct successful businesses for over a decade. Mr. Lewis also co-lectured at postgraduate class at the University of the West Indies in entrepreneurship and business finance. How much do we need that? As an author, he is constantly chastising his creative mind for breaking the rules and pushing the limits. He understands the perfection of his destination, and critics will be the mode of transportation on the highway of improvement. Despite the many roles played in his multi-tiered portfolio, Rodney finds time to be integrally involved in the lives of his three children, Adiela, did I pronounce that correct? Jabari,
Yes.
and Nicholas.
Jabari and Nicholas.
His first book, Divided by Design, was deliberately penned and captured the essence of the Black man's journey. Thank you, Rodney, and welcome to you. And I think I have a trailer that I want to play.
Yeah.
Let me get this right. Okay, here we go.
Oh God, why did you create me? Surely not to endure this suffering from the hands of these evil men. It would have been better if you had allowed me to remain as dirt instead of being treated like dirt. Why, oh God, do you stay silent in the midst of this terror? Is there no end to this madness? I am white, however, you are black, and that is what is wrong. Divided by Design. This book is not for the weak. Now available on Amazon. Get yours today. Be enlightened.
All right, we are back.
Yes, sir.
Great promotion, Rodney. How you doing today, brother?
I'm okay. Now, how are you doing, Jamu?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. I wanted to add that Rodney's book is also carried at Black Dot Cultural Center and bookstore
Yeah.
and online at blackdotccstore.com. That's blackdotccstore.com. Next time I do one of these, I'm gonna have a little slide that just pops that out there so people can see that. Question for you, brother. Why did you write Divided by Design?
Well, Jamu, I wrote Divided by Design because I could no longer stay silent. We as a Black people are the most divided race on the face of the planet. We're divided in our homes, in our churches, in our communities, and even how we speak, we're divided, right? Black men leaving the homes very early and just leaving wives to be single mothers. We don't come together as business owners to support each other. We don't speak the same language even. We're frustrating each other as far as it's who we serve is concerned. All of the other races, they have some representative of their savior looking like them, and we have to adopt one that would have been passed on to us by the Europeans. So I definitely had to write it. I also wrote it because I wanted to make a connection between the past and the present dispensations. And the last reason I found that those who taught me history in the past, it was just to massage their academic egos. But for a person like me that has a very short attention span, I needed material that would work with my personality. And I know that there are a lot of persons out there that would appreciate like my style of taking in knowledge. So I actually put out the book for persons like that as well, not just for academic appreciation, but for practical application.
I find it hard to believe you have a short attention span. I don't know how you get through this, developing, manifesting this. It takes a lot more than a short attention span. But something else that you stated is I'm always mindful of in terms of Black businesses working together. And not only working together, but working together towards Black excellence, but providing excellence to a Black consumer. Because at the end of the day, whose children are we sending to college, right?
It's true.
If we're supporting everyone else, we're sending everyone else's children to the college, yet we sit back and complain about what our children aren't doing. You can't have it both ways. I need to turn you up a little bit, so I'm gonna have to pause for 1 second because I want to make sure that I hear you clearly. I'm getting a little up there in age. I think it's 7, 8. No, on the mixer. Speak, brother.
Yes, sir.
Is that
Can you hear me properly now?
Hold on. I can hear you, but I need to hear you clear. You see this button 7, 8? It's the top button to the left. Hold on. Hold on 1 second, brother. Sorry for the interruption, but I need to make sure I hear you clearly. Hold on. I'll get it. It might not be 7, 8. This one.
No. You tried.
I think that's it.
Which is okay. So that's it. So now we can open.
Let me hear you now.
Yes, John. Can you hear me better?
That's a lot better. Yes, yes. I have you on the overhead speakers, and there's people behind me, and the screen is behind me, so they can see you on the screen. So the speakers are on the back side, and I'm on the front side.
Okay.
This is where I had to connect my my laptop. So, and I'm a little hard of hearing, but I find that this design was very interesting. when I first saw it. So what inspired the cover of this?
Well, simply put, a zipper for one of my favorite sports jackets that my daughter, who I know is logged on and watching, she took from me. No, she's going to be very upset when she hears this part. But the zipper is a strategic tool used for separating and for pulling apart. But
Okay.
it has to be controlled by an individual. So when I was thinking about the zipper, when I was thinking about a very strong image to put on the front of the book, I thought of how strategic the Europeans were with their divisive tactics in separating us from each other and separating
Yes.
us from them. And one thing I would like to interject here is that all of us came, if we know our history, we would know that everybody came from the black man, right?
Yes.
And all the races came from the black man. And it is amazing how, if you watch the cover of the book, you have white on one side, black on the other side, and the zip is in the middle. And the words that were used on the cover, words like colorism, envy, religion, gossip, hatred, all of those words. But if you look at the white man on the left-hand side of the book, the distortions on his face are rather seamless. You don't have a lot of distortions or a lot of contrast. But if you look on the right-hand side of the book, right, you see that we are divided with our shades. And then there's a part by the woman's eye. There's an eye there, and you can see the abuse and stuff by the lady as well. So I was just saying that, I wanted an image that at a glance, you can capture the essence of the book Divided by Design. And that's what really inspired the cover of the design. Yeah.
Yes. I really enjoy the cover of this. I want to keep showing those people that are watching. I am also supposed to be, let me see, going Facebook Live, and I'm not sure why it's not connecting because it's set up to connect, but we're working on the background to correct that for those that are.
This is the first, Jamu, and I mean, you will have the hiccups. You would be very surprised to find out what is going on my end. The electricity went off.
No, I know I connected it here, but for whatever reasons, it keeps telling me waiting for live video, but we're live, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What else I'm
using a phone.
Do.
I'm using a phone now instead of the computer.
Yeah, I'm using a computer. So when I clicked on Facebook Live, it just keeps telling me that it's waiting for the live video. So if it's waiting for the live video, we're live. So I don't know what it's waiting for or why it's waiting, but maybe I have to ask one of these youngsters in here. You want to come around and see? It's because it's asking me for a stream key. Am I supposed to do all of that? See this right here?
Zoom?
Yeah, because it's waiting on a live key.
What is that?
That's a copy. So where am I supposed to put that?
In Facebook.
Okay. And then URL will appear after live video is created. Stream.
And viewing.
Embed code broadcast.
And then viewing.
I think you have to be almost a rocket scientist to figure some of this out. Let's see here. Stream live on tab on page. No. Let's see if I click there. Well, I don't necessarily want to hold up all of our. See, it's just telling me waiting for live, but we're live. Well, we'll still try to work on that in the background, but I want to get on I want to go forward with some of the other questions that that I have for you. What are some of other topics that you touch on in the book?
Well, the book deals with colorism. It deals with the disparity of wealth. It deals with the sexuality. And those are some of the major topics in the book. Where colorism is concerned, that was a very personal topic for myself. As you can see, the melanin concentration of my skin, right? I would have had a very hard time at primary school. And I would have placed a lot of my experiences in the book. I fictionalized it, and I used Susan, who is one of the main characters in the book, in order to tell my story, at least in this one chapter. And if you would permit me, I would read chapter 10 in the book, right? It's on page 52.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right, this is my reading voice. Chapter 10, the color black. Black bitch, tar baby, gollywog, black bird, teased the girl as soon as Susan entered her classroom. School was hard, as she was constantly bullied and taunted by her schoolmates about her complexion. Daily, they would remind her of how black and greasy she was. At the tender age of 7, she could not fathom what she had done to deserve the onslaught of insults hurled in her direction from persons who looked just like her. Susan would cry until her eyes were red and swollen. She would become congested and choked up, trying feverishly to wipe away the mucus which would stream out of her nostrils. The children would erupt with laughter and jeer even more. As she got older and entered senior school, it got worse. It was ironic that the children with lighter skin tones hardly made fun of her. However, darker children always did. How was this even possible? That in a class filled with only blacks, no one wanted to be the blackest. And I will pause there. Hello, Jamu, can you still hear me?
I'm here. I just wanted to give you the whole screen.
Oh.
I'm trying to be creative here. I was like, you're speaking, I wanted to give you the whole screen so people could focus on your exact words. Very interesting. And that was chapter 10.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to give us, I'm sure you're going to give us some more. Why is it relevant now? That's, I got you in 2 screens. Let's see, which one am I supposed to have you?
I'm going to check off this one.
Let's stop that one. There we go. Okay. Got you. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you properly.
Okay, cool. Cool. I like that poster behind you.
Yeah, thank you.
And do you have those posters for sale?
I can make them readily available for sale if we can find a market to purchase them like yesterday, yeah? It's all about business.
I'm sure there'd be a market for it. You might want to let some of the, first of all, I know I'm jumping ahead of this, but if someone wanted to ask questions of you, how do they get in contact with you?
They can contact me on my website at broadcastonline.com, or they can contact me via Instagram at Divided by Design, or on Facebook. That is basically it. Or they can go to Black Dot CC.
Yes.
And they can get hold of me through that as well.
My hope is that there'll be enough inquiries about that poster that will make you kind of put them posters together and sell them. I want a poster.
Well, I would get a poster to you, and I'm seeing shirts behind you as well. So we could probably get the poster printed on one of your shirts as well at the back. Yeah.
You see that, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. I also want, I have some more questions, but I also want people to know that we do have the open chat, so they can ask questions. So when we get to that, they can ask questions on that open chat for people to hear. Next question. Why is your book important to read?
Well, yeah, the reason why the book is important to read, because all of the topics are still very relevant. This is not a historical, this is not a historical book. This is what is happening. This book is about the events that are happening today, right? Everything today that we're going through is based on the things that we would have gone through in our past. And for 400 years, we were having the same dialogue and we are at the same spot. We need to stop dreaming and wake up and actually start to put things in place where we as Black people could be looked at as equals. I was home and I was watching what happened to George Floyd. And some persons said, you know, you wrote a book and these things don't happen in Barbados. And they're right. We don't have any white policemen in Barbados. We hardly have any white policemen in the Caribbean, right? So I would never face that fate in the Caribbean or the white policeman putting his knee on my neck. However, I'm not isolated or kept in a box. I travel. So if I was traveling at that point in time, I could have been that Black man that policeman chose to put his knee in his neck, or my kids that travel, or my friends or family that live abroad. So people need to understand that this is no longer a Caribbean thing versus a USA thing or whatever. And even in, if I may speak freely, in speaking about George Floyd, there's a Candace Owens that would have spoken, in my opinion, out of turn, right? Is wanting to highlight his criminal behavior and his criminal activities. But the time in which she did it, even if they were true, the time she did it, it wasn't called for because this isn't about individual wrongs or rights. We as a race need to understand the injustices that we are dealing with and continue to face. And we as a race have to be solid in our approach in terms of going forward as a unit, as a body together, right? So there are evil people on both sides of the spectrum. Evil white people, evil Black people, good white people, good Black people. But it's not about that. It is about us as Black people trying to get out of the mire that we were placed in. I find in general, you have persons given like reparations and whatever, however you may put it, to the persons that came through the Holocaust or even to the Native Indians. But whenever Black people are looking now for some type of compensation for whatever they would have gone through, nobody thinks that they deserve it. And why is that? You know, do they think that, you know, this color, Black, we don't deserve anything? So just to go back to your question in general, that is why this book is relevant. Only this week, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be very deliberate in doing this. Only this week, there was a white guy in Barbados who was driving a truck and he was ranting and raving, right? And
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
There was a white guy in Barbados this week who was ranting and raving. You know, he said he was upset and that is why he used a lot of racial slurs. He actually said he doesn't know why these niggers were brought here from Africa to behave like this. That's what he said in 2021. So for persons to ask why this book is relevant, in 2021, we have a dingy man asking, I'm sorry for me getting out a little passionate.
No, don't apologize for your passion, brother. Don't do that.
We're getting this question in 2021, why were Black people brought to this island to behave like this? And one of the reasons I don't even like to speak on these topics when the entire nation gets upset about it, because all we do is react. We react when things happen. It's like if I stepped on your toe, you would push me off and say, watch it. But it is not about being reactive or reacting. It is about a sustained movement. It's about us understanding that if we don't band together, right, we will never rid ourselves of this cancerous tumor. And that's how I look at it, right? You know, so that is why you think that the book is relevant. And ironically, there is a Mr. Corbin mentioned in the book. And people might want to know if it was prophetic and mentioning the Mr. Corbin in the book. And the Mr. Corbin in the book, his character was one of vile character. He wanted to rape the main character. And when she objected, because obviously he was married and stuff, he then switched to saying that he would kill her and he pushed her out of the vehicle. Later, he told her that she should stop being obstinate and just allow him to experience her oily meat. Yeah, that lends not only to how they see us as people, right, and deals with sexuality and stuff, but I could go on and on, Ajamu, right? There's relevance. There's a lot of relevance for this book in today's time.
You know, I'm glad you brought up George Floyd, excuse me, because you're in Barbados. I'm here in Atlanta, metropolitan Atlanta, Georgia. The difference, as I see, between you and I is a boat ride, a drop off, right? There is no difference. We are brothers. And I'm forever mindful that what I would say Africans throughout the diaspora, that whatever those walls are, is whatever happens to you in Barbados happens to me here. Whatever happens to my people or to Black people here in America, that should be felt from Africans throughout the diaspora. Because I'm reminded not too far, I mean, Brazil, they are facing a lot of atrocities because they're not fortunate just to have Black police officers, right? But it's really finding, and that's why this dialogue is really important, because this is how we connect, right? This is how we build. This is how we become strategic and more proactive instead of reactive, as you said, because we are very reactive. And that's part of what I would say is part of that post-traumatic slave syndrome that Dr. Wade Nobles coined that terminology. But it's very important. And again, as we go on, that's why this book is so important to read. And I want to thank my beautiful sister for connecting us. Hold on, we got somebody else coming in. So my next question, tell us a bit about poverty as it's explained in the book.
One thing I would like persons to take away is that poverty is a direct byproduct of slavery. And I will repeat that again. Poverty is a direct byproduct of slavery. It isn't that the white man is any brighter or smarter than us. He would have had 400 years of free labor, free resources to do as he wished. And he's able now to take that which he would have gained on the backs of our forefathers and use as collateral to access loans to build his enterprises and keep us at the bottom of the pyramid, where we then are always consumers and he will always be the owner. So in a sense, nothing has changed. And we at the bottom of the pyramid having to be consumers and working for the white man who, in essence, would never give us any much more than to work another day. We are working 5 days a week to relax 2 days. We are working every day to be able to pay bills and never be able to amass anything really. And in a poverty-stricken situation, it affects your health, it affects where you live, it affects what you eat, it affects your choices. And if we are real with each other, most of the poverty-stricken communities, the level of crime is extremely high. And with a high level of crime, because people have, they're hustling, right? I'm not here to be judgmental, because who knows exactly why a person would have to do what they have to do to survive, right? Before I held a position on prostitution, I held a position on a lot of things. If you're watching your 4 children, I should probably say 6, because usually there are women running from man to man to support the mouths within the house. So if all of these men are leaving and this woman is watching these hungry mouths staring at her with no choice, and some of us not living in that particular dynamic, but not think that she doesn't have a choice. We all would speak like, you know, she could always go and do a skill or learn to do this or learn to do that, but you're not walking in that woman's shoes. And poverty would have placed that woman. I'm not saying that some persons aren't reckless and worthless, but I'm saying that in general, poverty would have placed a lot of people in some very compromising positions to do things that they probably normally wouldn't do, right? And all of these things are explored in the book. As I said already, you know, we remain consumers. And even when you get a business, a Jamu, that you would have your bookstore. And like one of the reasons why I said that, you know, we can't just stay being reactive and just react to things that happen. You would have your bookstore and you would say, you know what? I'm going to boycott these persons that are doing this nonsense to us. The only type of boycotting we can really do is an individual boycott to the person who would have dealt the blow at the time. So like how I mentioned in Mr. Corbin guy, he mentioned that whole thing with black niggers and whatever, right? If he has a business, we could choose to stop supporting his business. But because we as black people hardly own anything at the top of the pyramid, we don't own much. And we have to get to a place where we are pushing and thriving to own. Because, for example, you may own a, I don't know, a restaurant, and your black brother would come and say he's supporting you. But is he really supporting you when all of your equipment came from the white man? When all of your stock was purchased from the white man? All of your containers, forks, napkins, bags, all of those things were purchased from the white man, and the persons delivering those things to the island or to the country, the shipping, the planes, all of those are manufactured by white men. How can we say that we're actually going to, I don't know, boycott? And then when you choose to get a car, there are no black manufacturers of cars. When you choose to go on a cruise, you can't go on a cruise that was made by a black man. When you choose to take a trip to a Caribbean island, you can't take a trip with a plane that was made, even if it's your private jet. You can't choose to go on a plane that was manufactured by a black man. And we have so much issues in general that even when we put the things that we may accept from black people, we might actually start to think that they're inferior. So I would like to see how many black people would actually get on a plane that was made by a black man. And all of that, right, is a direct correlation then of how poverty and all the other positions that we were placed in would have put us, for us not to do things at the level that we are supposed to do them at. Our skills are always being used. I mean, a lot of people, they just look, I mean, you asked me to address these things that go on in, that are in the book. You know, like when people think of poverty and when they think of Africa, some people still think of Africa as some small country, probably the size of New Zealand. Probably people don't understand that Africa is a continent with over 50 countries within it. You understand? And it is one of the richest continents on the planet. Absolutely. And it's amazing that with a place that the percentage of blacks are so high that it is still poverty stricken in some regards, because all of the other nations would have raped Africa of its natural resources in order to build their own countries. I wrote something in the book here where African nations were still being exploited by France. Or France was taking, like, I don't know if it's like $500 billion every year, and the money from Africa is being deposited in the central bank of France, right? And all of the presidents in the past that would have tried to oppose this were assassinated. And I mean, there's nothing that France can, natural resources and a claim to fame for France to be high up on the economic ladder, but they're already still in these times on the backs of black people. So if we don't come together, understanding that as units, we can't do much, you know. There are a lot of millionaires where you live, a lot of billionaires where you live, and all of them are probably self-seeking and stuff. But if they could come together and say, you know what, let us do something substantial, we as Black people have a better voice and could probably rise above this poverty-stricken domain that we're in right now.
Are you anyone encouraged? I know I am. I'm a child of the 60s, and growing up, you had the scarcity of Black entrepreneurs. I would want to say I'm a child coming out of the civil rights movement. As I grow older and I see younger generations of Black people, for instance, here where I am in Lithonia, I see the growth of Black entrepreneurship, but not just Black entrepreneurship, but the growth of products developed and made by Black people. I'm beginning to see distribution lines. It's on a small scale, not large, but I am very encouraged by what I see amongst young folks. I'm quick to say that my parents' generation was mostly blue collar workers. My generation was like, the hell with blue collar, I want to go work for corporate America. We went kind of further in the belly of the beast in corporate America, but my children and my grandchildren want to be entrepreneurs. As they said, no, we don't want to do that corporate thing either. We want to have our own. And I'm reminded of, I met a couple years ago, I met a Black cotton farm owner that that cotton farm had been in their family since Reconstruction. And I asked him, how many Black farmers are out there? And he said, actually quite a bit. But I found it strange to make your point is that if we have enough Black farmers out there, why aren't we manufacturing our own clothing? The scholar John Henry Clark said the least that we could do is manufacture our underwear. But we have enough cotton farmers, Black cotton farmers, in order to do that. So I'm with you 100% on that, but I am encouraged by, I live in a bubble in a sense because I do work at, I own a bookstore and a cultural center, and 65% of my clientele is under 40 years old, under 40. So I get to engage with that generation a lot more these days than I engage with people in my own age demographic. And I'm encouraged about what I see and where I see them mentally and spiritually and psychologically moving, and how developing businesses and developing products and supporting one another is becoming a premium. And to mention George Floyd, I find that since George Floyd, there seemed to be even more of a premium on Black people doing business with Black people. In the past, when we had some of our other brothers and sisters that were assassinated, to use those terms, you will see a spike in Black supporting Black businesses. But with George Floyd, it was different. There was a higher premium put on it, and actually it's still going on today. It's like, I think the light bulb went off in a lot of our heads. So I said all that to say that, are you seeing that in Barbados? Are you seeing any signs of that in your travel, where it seems like we're turning the curve? We're not quite there yet, but things are a lot more progressive, if you will, today than it was possibly in the 70s, if you will.
Yeah, the mindset has definitely changed, where entrepreneurship seems to be the art of the day. persons were encouraged before to go to school, learn, get a job, and especially Black persons. And you would go all through university, get your degree, and at the end of the day, the market is so saturated that you didn't have any jobs for you. And the white man, though, he would have been hurled into entrepreneurship from the beginning, right? From the beginning, he would have been hurled into entrepreneurship. And a lot of the times then, because they also have generational wealth which they pass down and they support one another better than we do, when we do enter the entrepreneurship, at the end of the day, we hardly can access the same loans or anything that they have because they have the capital to access these loans. So as we are talking about entrepreneurship and whatever, you still have a lot of drivers for entrepreneurship. You have, you need to be able to access funds. And then outside of that, you need the individuals to support your business. I find we, instead of keeping our money in our community, we tend to spend our money outside of the community. Also, because you're Black, there's no Black, you should think Black, you should think excellence. There's no reason for mediocrity, right? As a Black entrepreneur. But when you say that, you still have to add a caveat in there as well. Sometimes we don't have the resources to compete at the level that the white man is competing at. So you would have a coffee shop and the white man has the latest equipment, the latest technology, the latest lighting. And if there's a screw that is missing, he can replace it. But with the Black man now, the Black entrepreneur, he's fighting to pay bills. And then his store is in a state of disarray. Also, the governmental institutions that may work with the white man, and I'm talking about predominantly in a Barbadian or West Indian setting, you'll find that the authorities probably come down more on the Black business owners. I know personally, persons of the other hue, they owed bills in hundreds of thousands, and persons that work at those institutions for the utility companies told them not to bother them, but they would get down on a Black man that only owed a couple $100 for a bill for the month. So how could we really compete if our own are not supporting us, if we don't have the capital to do the stuff the right way in the first place? And at the end of the day, the things that we want to run our business, we are still dependent on the white man who is at the top of the tier to provide us with them. All right. So we need to address all of those things. And then lastly, Ajamu, where this is concerned, you could have the education and you could have the wherewithal to do stuff. But if you have envy and thing working against you from your own Black brothers, right? And everybody, instead of having any sense of creativity, they see you start a business and they want to start a business alongside of yours instead of finding a business that would be supportive of yours. And if you study the other cultures, they will have businesses and they would have fractions or other entities supporting that business instead of competing with one another. So we have to look at all these things when we look at entrepreneurship. Yeah.
I agree. So I want to say something to the audience that's in here. This brother's doing it. Hey, family. This brother's doing an excellent book review on his book, Divided by Design, on the screen. We should check it out.
Divided by Design.
Divided by Design. We're doing a virtual book signing. So that's why it's on the screen. So hopefully, I mean, if you ever read the book, you know how important it is, that people, have your ear when we're trying to talk about it. So thank you. All right.
Thanks
My
again.
brother. If there's one takeaway that you want for the reader to have, what would that be? One takeaway. Before you even get into that, for the listening audience, there are many takeaways from this book that you're going to get. So it's important that you go out to Black Dot blackdotcc.com. Oh, no, let me rephrase that. blackdotcccstore.com to pick up your book. So I want you to give us one takeaway. What would be, what's the first thing that comes to your spirit when you think of the takeaway from this book?
Well, not as an insult to Martin Luther King. He was one of my mentors, although we didn't know each other, obviously. But he mentioned he had a dream. And my dream would be for Black people to understand how divisive the tactics were, cause us to be separated and not work together. And we would have to be just as strategic to come together and unite in order for us to change the dynamics of what is going on today. And that would be my one takeaway. We have to wake up and start dreaming, and it's a time to act. God, this is 400 years that we had the same dialogue. It is time for change. That is my one takeaway.
Absolutely. Thank you. And that's a great one. So besides blackdotcccstore.com, where else is your book available?
And let me just say that's the main place I want persons to go for this book. But the other place is Amazon. You can get the book definitely on Amazon. And if you want to do bulk orders for the book, you can get it at book orders at broadcastonline.com for bulk orders. But definitely on blackdotcc.com and Amazon for the paperback and the Kindle.
How can vendors, other bookstores, persons just interested in carrying your book in their store, how do they contact you?
Yeah, they can contact me, as I said already, at book orders at broadcastonline.com. They could contact us at dividedbydesign@gmail.com as well. And I'm sure if we work together properly at Jamal, right? We can also give them, I'm sure if once we work together, we can also give them your contact so that we can help this.
Absolutely. And for whatever, I am recording this, and I believe because I couldn't, for whatever reasons, I don't know why this isn't Facebook Live, but I am recording this. So I will upload that to Facebook. So it'll go on there. So, and I'll figure out why it's not live. It should have been just a simple click, click, click. I believe you're going to read an excerpt of your book, and then we're going to open it up for questions.
Okay, you want another excerpt? Just 1 minute, folks. Ready? One thing I wanted to say before I go to reading the excerpt, though, something that I want to definitely bring out is how we communicate with each other as Black persons as well. This might be quite a controversial topic, but the use of the word nigger. I couldn't let this opportunity to say how I really feel about that word being used in these times continue to propagate the nonsense that was done to us. Let me give you my reasoning for it. As I said earlier, all life came from the Black man, but the Europeans took the Black man and they decimated him and they treated him like, for better, let me keep it PG, feces. Yeah? And our forefathers would have cringed when they were called nigger, and that whip was tearing the flesh off their backs. Our forefathers would have cringed when they were buggered while tied to a tree in front of their families and called nigger. And we, as Black men, strong, resolute, we as Black men are in this time saying that we are over that and we are going to call each other nigger to show that we would have risen above and beyond that, to show that it doesn't have any hold or sting where we are concerned. No. Let me say women who bore life or continue to bear life, women who are the bearers of life. Men would have called women bitches in the past. Bitches. They would have taken our queens, they would have taken the bearers of life, and they would have called them bitches and reduced them to dogs. Now in these times, we have women calling each other bitches, instead of understanding that the language then has a serious part to play in how they are viewed. So I made the connection between the two, right? How we are still propagating the use of the word nigger and feeling as though we have a sense of ownership, instead of coming up with a word which really shows that we are above and beyond this nonsense. And I compare that to how women are, not all women, of course, I don't want anybody to jump on me for this. All women are using the term bitches, but I'm saying that men that didn't have respect for women would have been calling them that, and people are continuing the lingo, and it does nothing for us as a people in terms of moving on, right? You know, the music industry and the media and all those things will probably continue to push these things because of their agenda. And we have to understand that we have to stop performing. We have to stop performing for the white man in general. There are no Black hockey team owners, but there are white American football owners, white basketball owners, basketball team owners. But you know, we're always performing, and we need to stop performing. So the part I was actually looking for in the book,
I wanted to
address that.
I wanted to share this with you at Black Dot Cultural Center bookstore. That might be in over 3 years, that might be the second or third time I've had to hear those words in this space. We've created here a space where I don't even know if it's a point. I don't even know if I want to say it's not tolerable that we don't, but of mutual respect and love for one another, a sacred place, if you will. And I've only had to correct or stop someone from saying that on 2 other occasions, and believe it or not, that was during a poetry night when those terms was used.
Okay.
So I think that as we develop these spaces and these sacred spaces of business and community, that again, we set a standard. The young people, when I say young, I'm talking about teenagers from the community that come in and out. They're taught, and we take time as Black men and Black women, as adults, to let them know the importance of that. So I was just smiling while you were saying that, because you're absolutely right. Because we practice that here in this space. I can't speak for what happens out there in the street, but that's something that's practiced. And I think that the more and more spaces that this is practiced, the more that we can eliminate those very negative words. And more importantly, one has to understand that what you speak manifests. When you speak those words, then you're manifesting that. It is important that we understand that from your thought to your mouth comes the manifestation. And if it's negative, if it's cruel, if it's hatred, if it's self-hatred, if that's what's coming out of your mouth, that's what continues to come back to you. That's what continues to manifest. So thank you for sharing that, because that is very important that we deal with that. Am I blocking Yamin Yahweh? Okay. So are you still reading us that excerpt?
Yes, I'm still going to read that, sir.
I just wanted to make sure.
All right. This, I wanted to end with something positive. So it's just going to be a very short piece, and it's actually at the back of the book. And it says that.
What page is it?
175. It's
175?
175. Yeah. It started in the middle of the last paragraph.
Okay.
Susan watched her mother as she fought back tears. She wanted to talk to her, but she couldn't. Susan's near brush with death made her think about her life and her purpose here on earth. She was too perfectly designed for it to be a coincidence. Her habitat was too masterfully engineered for her to survive and enjoy for it to be by chance. The air she breathed, the water, the plants, the sea, the sun, trying to list the countless splendors would be a futile endeavor. The sheer magnificence of creation humbled her when she thought of being one of billions, present and past, on a planet that was only one of millions in an incomprehensible universe. Susan felt insignificant and special at the same time to be a part of this grand plan. This grand plan could never have been created for whites to lord over blacks, but for all men to live as one. As time passed, the dream never left Susan. The dream had awakened her consciousness. She was now determined not only to break the chains, but to become a giant herself and pave the way for other black giants. The end. And at the end of the book, it has cogs and it says to continue processing.
There isn't
an end for this part.
That is a perfect ending. Continue processing. The manifestation has to continue.
Correct.
At this time, and I got to make sure I figure that out, we want to ask our participants. Let me see how to open up this chat room to ask any questions. I've asked my few questions. Now I'm sure you have some questions. So here's one. I'll read it out loud, or can you see that on the screen? But I'll read it. Congratulations, Mr. Lewis, on an enlightening publication. When and what is the next publication? Also seeing that there is a need for the type of education displayed and divided by design, are you considering another publication along these lines?
Well, thank you for the question. You're actually going to get me to reveal something I didn't want to reveal, but I'm already working on what you would call the antidote for divided by design, or the vaccine, if you want to use this current lingo with the COVID and stuff. I'm working on the vaccine for divided by design, and it's going to be called United by Design. This divided by design is to show you the ills, and United by Design will show you how to correct the ills, show you how we as a black people should be investing in our own banking, investing in our own education and insurance companies. All right, that is what the United by Design will be about, and I'm hoping to have it published this time next year. But I already started to work on it.
Thank you. Hi, how are you? I know the rest of us have some questions. I'm trying to put this, there we go. See who else has a question. I just posted the link where the book can be purchased online at black.ccstore.com. Any other questions out there?
What persons are thinking about the questions to Jamu?
I'm sorry.
So what persons are thinking about the questions as well?
Mhm.
Just something else I would like persons to think about, something that I didn't touch on. The colorism, I said I read the part, but I didn't really go into it. I find that colorism was one of the most strategic divisive tactics used on us by the Europeans. And for us as a Black people to have these differences and these distinctions because of the shade and melanin content, it actually supports the fact that we look at them as being superior to us. Because if the lighter individuals feel as though they're better, or the darker individuals like myself feel as though that they're lesser than anybody else, it actually showcases like the fact that they are superior. And in a sense, you shouldn't have a country like Africa again having sales in the billions for bleaching cream.
Mhm.
You have people in the Caribbean, right? Millions of dollars in sales for bleaching cream. And I'm not, as I said already, I'm not judging anybody or anything, because I would have been bullied at school. I understand that if I didn't have a strong sense of purpose, and that wasn't just developed automatically. I came home after being bullied. I came home after being called a black bird. And my mother saw that I was distraught and I was distressed. And she took me outside. She took me outside and she showed me a black bird and a dingy white pigeon. All right. And I don't know how many of you all on the platform now would have ever watched a blackbird in the sun, but a blackbird has oil on its feathers, and that oil breaks up the white light. And if you get the blackbird at the right angle, you can actually see all the colors within the prism on that blackbird's feathers, green and purple and yellow. And if you look at that blackbird has a sense of purpose, right? It's a bird that you don't mess with, even how it walks. And she showed me that bird, and she compared it to the white dingy pigeon. She didn't say anything racist. She just told me to watch the two birds. And I watched those birds, and I went to school. And you couldn't get me to be any blacker than I am right now. Anytime any person said, "You're so black," I would say I would love to be blacker, right? So I have a sense of purpose, and sometimes people will think now that you may be arrogant because at the end of the day, you are, I embrace my blackness. And I would just like to encourage all of those persons who are going through what I would have gone through as a youngster, right? To just understand that you're worthy, you have a sense of purpose, and call on that strength that is within you, and you can do anything you put your mind to, and you're no lesser of a person than anybody else. And that is what I would like to leave in the chat.
Absolutely, absolutely. Looks like I have another question. Let's see, from K Pitt. I've joined late, so apologies if you've already addressed this, but can you share your impetus for writing this work? So great to have your reflections, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you.
Can you see the question when I put it up there?
I saw a question just now asking how long did it take to write the book?
They want to know the impetus for writing this work. They came in late, so they wanted to hear it again. And how long did it take you to write the book?
As I said, I was going through a rough period in my life in general, and I could no longer stay silent, because I believe to stay silent is to be complicit. We cannot continue to kick the can down the road. We cannot look at it as somebody else's responsibility to speak out about the injustices that are being done to us as a Black people. And seeing how divided we are as a people, divided in our homes, religion, community, businesses, I wanted to speak. I wanted to connect our past and see how our past influence our present and our future. And I wanted to add my voice to the dialogue out there so that persons that, you know, might not be concerned or interested in the academic appreciation of it, they can actually have a practical appreciation, a real life appreciation of what we are experiencing as a Black people. I just want to say something that I rushed through the beginning of the book with the historical part where a lot of people said that it was too graphic and horrific and all those things, and people sort of heard it before through Roots and other movies and stuff that they watched. So I started like tried my best to just get through that period. But the second half of the book, all of the scenarios in the second half of the book are real life scenarios, but fictionalized. I would have used experiences from my friends, from my families, from myself, and I would have just changed the characters. But everything in the second half of the book, from the lady's experience at the bank, for her being molested behind the factory yard by a white man, you know what I mean, to persons being jealous and envious of her progression, all of those things were actual experiences from persons that I relate to on a daily basis and that are still alive.
Great, great.
And
Next
how
question.
long it took me to write the book? It actually took me 2 years to write the book. I don't want to offend anybody, but the book actually didn't start as Divided by Design. It actually started, and I know I'm going to get some licks for this one, but I'm still going to do it as an agitator. I'm going to do it. The book was started as The Miserable Black Woman. All right? That was what the title was. And then when I was when I was penning this book about the miserable Black woman, I had to question myself, because the Black woman didn't just become miserable by her own volition. The Black woman was miserable because the head of her house was torn from her house and she was left to raise a family on her own. The Black woman didn't just become miserable, but because men not understanding the power that they have within the community in terms of their sexuality would just keep propositioning the Black woman for sex and not looking at her brain or whatever else she has to offer. So a woman that is trying to navigate life and trying to feed her children, and then is always petitioned by Black men who have no purpose, of course she would become miserable. So when I started to dive in and look for all of the connectors of why this Black woman, in my opinion, would have been miserable, I then started to explore my history and started to connect the dots. And then I realized where the divide came from. And that is where the title also came from, Divided by Design. It was a hard process, especially with my editors. We went through a lot of editing, making sure that we fact checked a lot of stuff, although I deliberately left dates, geographics, and a lot of academic stuff. I left it out of the book deliberately because I did not want persons to focus on that level of content and ignore the issues at hand. And as I said already, I wanted to do it in a way that persons like myself would just easily swallow. So that is why I mixed the fiction and the historical aspects of the book together. But it took over 2 years. The editing was the longest process, and it was hard to do because even in rehashing the events, when I spoke about Amari, how his teeth were broken out and they force fed him cornmeal pop on the ship, and how his hair was saturated with urine and feces, and when he was buggered because he didn't want to have sex with his daughters that he never saw, he was tied on a tree and he was buggered, right? And then he was shot in front of his family, right? So all of these things then would have been so hard for me to pen, but you know, I had a lot of support, and I'm pleased with the work the final product.
Okay, so we do have another question. We have a couple of statements. I'm going to read the statements and I'm going to ask you the final question for today. So Kendra Pitt said, thank you for sharing. Silence as complicity. Well said. Donna said, incredible discussion. Do you know Donna? You're smiling. Incredible discussion in light of entrepreneurship, in light of the situations with jobs. Do you think a university college education is valuable at the time? That's one question. And then the final question that we want to ask is, what were some of the emotions that you experienced while writing the book?
All right. Well, the first question with the college degree, that was the first question, right, Jamal?
The first question was, in light of the situations with jobs, do you think a university college education is valuable at this time?
I definitely still think that a degree, a college degree, a university degree is very valuable at this time. A lot of our Black kids don't know how to read or write. This is not an attack on education. This is not an attack on academics. It would be good to be able to blend the two, the entrepreneurial spirit and having the tools to run your business properly. If you don't have a university degree, when you're dealing with your accounts and your financial statements, and when you're looking out to do a marketing proposal or even communicate or write a basic letter, right? I definitely believe I'm in strong support of all of our Black people having university degrees, but it doesn't stop there. I also believe that the university degree should encompass entrepreneurial topics. And that is where the downfall is. And not only just a degree, but we need teaching with self-esteem, because you could have all the knowledge and not be able to communicate or articulate your points the right way, and then you're still not noticed in the market. So I definitely believe that the degree is valuable still in these times.
I put you on mute. I know there's a lot of noise. Lisa Yard says those skills need to be taught before the university and college level. Absolutely. So, any more questions from anyone before we close out for today? I want to say going 10, 9, 8, but I have a podcast that I want to invite you. We're going to speak more. Invite you on for a more in-depth conversation, and then we'll let these listeners know as well. I'm hoping that there's some more questions for Rodney. That's my brother's name, by the way. Did I tell you that? Yes. I'll never forget your name.
He's a good guy.
Yes. He gets on my nerves a lot, but because he's a younger brother, so you younger brothers have a tendency of doing that.
Yeah.
But I love him.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to conclude for the day. Rodney, I wanted to thank you and the family here at Black Dot Cultural Center and Bookstore. Welcome. Divided by Design onto our shelves.
Thank you so very much.
When you come over to the States, if you don't stop by here, I'm going to chase you down.
Yeah.
And drag you in here, kicking and screaming. We have to do this again, and next time we do it, I'll make sure I figure out the back end stuff. But
tell me something, Jamu. You figured out how to play the music for all these listeners here now, or the Divided by Design rap song? I want you to hear it. I hope you got it.
I hope that I don't butcher this, but I'm going to try to see if I can do this. Let me see. I wish I could do it in the background where it's, let's see. Where was it at? Okay. I'm trying to see if I can get this together. Hold on. I'm gonna end up showing everybody my screen just to make sure it's right. It took me forever to get the, oh, that helped.
I'm now looking at the chat as well too, Jamu.
Yeah, I don't even know how to cover that up, so I'm not gonna worry about it right now. Okay, here we go. Bang.
Oh.
Can you hear it?
Yes, sir.
Hey, guys.
Divided by design, we still in sexual time, segregated by the crimes. Everybody has a story, here is mine. Divided by design, nobody shows their true faces. Wait until the stars align. Respect my culture, them embrace it. Divided by design, forget that was their day. Then again, on their case of fate. Make sure nothing remain for funds remain. Now we are these things and killing our mates. So humble as they continue to rob us, leaving us with dirt while they take our gold. Divided by design, we still been saved through time, segregated by the crimes. Everybody has a story, here is mine. Divided by design, nobody shows their true faces. Wait until the stars align. Respect my culture, them embrace it. I get tired of the cliche, there is no time to play. Say rise up, beings we are still down in the play. We all will teach, preach it. Let's get around and who's gonna be strong, fight against the shit. All we are gonna be led, keep it shuffle and back to the shit. Nigga this, nigga that, nigga this shit's gonna be pissed, yeah, but it's power to the people. We say with a clenched fist, same fist we used to kill and not build. But why are we always angry? We can chill, feeling great without leaving a will. While a blanket struggle to climb up the hill. Divided by design, we still been saved from time, segregated by the crimes. Everybody has a story, here is mine. Divided by design, nobody shows their true faces. Wait until the stars align. Respect my culture, them embrace it. Melanin was made, light skin, dark skin, no one go. This is just a code. If we don't do this right, we will continue to be separated. Always proving more writing each other's backs, cutting each other's throats. Divided by design, we still in states with time, segregated by the crimes. Everybody has a story, here is mine. Divided by design, nobody shows their true faces. Wait until the stars align. Respect my culture, them embrace it.
Thank you so very much, Jamu.
And thank you. Peace and love, brother.
You too, sir. Have a pleasant day as well.
All righty. In meeting. Oh.